they were children once. Exiled. Erased. Forgotten. Now they've returned, and the pack that abandoned them is about to learn that some ghosts don't stay buried. Hello, my beautiful pack. Welcome back to another story, and wow, do I have something intense for you today. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. And hey, how are you doing today? I hope you're ready for this one because it's going to grip your heart and not let go. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss the stories coming your way. Now, let's jump straight into the darkness, shall we? The scent hit Alpha Kieran Stone 3 seconds before the howl shattered the night. Wrong. Everything about it was wrong. He stood at the edge of Silvercrest territory, every instinct screaming danger, but his wolf lurched forward inside him with a desperate, hungry need that made no sense. The scent was wild honey and thunderstorms, ancient pine and something else, something that made his canines ache and his chest constrict. Mate. Impossible. Alpha, we have movement on the North Ridge. His beta, Marcus, appeared beside him, tension radiating from every line of his body. 6 wolves. Maybe 7. They're not responding to our warnings. Kieran's jaw clenched. Rogues. It had to be. But rogues didn't move in coordinated packs, and they sure as hell didn't breach Silvercrest borders without a death wish. The howl came again, closer this time, and it carried a sound that froze the blood in his veins. Not a challenge. Not a threat. A morning song. They're coming through, Marcus said, his hand moving to the silver blade at his hip. Orders? Kieran opened his mouth to respond when the tree line exploded with movement. Wolves poured onto his territory, massive and battle-scarred, their eyes gleaming with intelligence and something darker. Rage. Purpose. And leading them was a she-wolf unlike anything he'd ever seen. Her coat was silver-white, almost luminescent in the moonlight, but it was her eyes that stopped his heart. Amber gold and burning with an intensity that spoke of survival, of pain endured and overcome. She was beauty and violence wrapped in fur, and when those eyes locked onto his, recognition slammed through him like a lightning strike. Mate. His wolf held it. Screamed it. But the she-wolf's lips pulled back, revealing razor-sharp teeth, and the sound that rumbled from her throat wasn't love. It was a promise of vengeance. Hello, Alpha Stone, a voice called from the shadows. A man stepped forward, tall and lean, with scars crisscrossing his face and arms. His eyes were the same amber gold as the she-wolf's. I'm sure you don't remember us. Your pack made very sure of that. Kieran's stomach dropped. Who are you? The man smiled, cold and terrible. We're the children you exiled 20 years ago. The ones you left to die in the Plaguelands. The she-wolf shifted, bones cracking and reforming, and suddenly a woman stood before him. Beautiful. Fierce. Familiar in a way that made his soul ache. My name is Lyra Ashwood, she said, her voice rough silk and buried fury. And we've come home to collect what you owe us. The name Ashwood hit Kieran like a physical blow. He knew that name. Every wolf in Silvercrest knew it, whispered in shadows, buried in shame. The Ashwood family had been decimated by the plague 20 years ago, their bloodline supposedly extinct. The former Alpha, Kieran's father, had declared them lost to the sickness that swept through the pack like wildfire. But standing before him now, very much alive, was proof that his father had lied. You're supposed to be dead, Kieran said, hating how hollow his voice sounded. Lyra's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. We were supposed to be a lot of things, Alpha. Dead was just the easiest story for your pack to swallow. She moved closer, and despite the fury radiating from her, his wolf whimpered with need. Tell me, do you even know what your father did? Or are you just another puppet in the bloodline, following orders without question? Kieran's jaw clenched. My father died 3 years ago. Whatever he did. Whatever he did? The scarred man, clearly Lyra's second in command, stepped forward with a growl. He took 37 children, told their parents we were being quarantined for safety, and dumped us in the Deadlands 50 miles north. No food. No shelter. No protection. We were 6 years old, Alpha. The oldest was 12. The ground seemed to tilt beneath Kieran's feet. 37 children. He'd been 14 when the plague hit, already training to be alpha, but he remembered that year. Remembered the quarantine zones, the funeral pyres, the way entire family lines vanished overnight. He'd never questioned it. None of them had. How many survived, he asked quietly. 12, Lyra said, and the word carried the weight of 25 graves. 12 of us made it through that first winter. We learned to hunt or we starved. We learned to fight or we died. And we learned that the pack we'd trusted, the family we'd loved, had thrown us away like garbage. Marcus shifted beside Kieran, his voice careful. The records say you died in the plague. All of you. There's documentation. Forged, the scarred man spat. Your precious alpha covered his tracks well. Easier to bury children than risk the bloodline, right? Easier to let us die than face the possibility we might carry sickness back to the pure wolves. Kieran's wolf snarled inside him, torn between the mate bond screaming for Lyra and the horror of what he was hearing. He'd spent 3 years as alpha trying to rebuild what his father had broken, trying to lead with honor and strength. But this? This was a sin that stained everything. Why come back now? He asked, meeting Lyra's burning gaze. Why not just disappear? Start over somewhere else? Her smile was all teeth and no warmth. Because this is our home, Alpha Stone. Our territory. Our birthright. And because your pack needs to face what they created when they abandoned us. She tilted her head, studying him like a predator deciding where to strike. We're not here for revenge. We're here for justice. And if we refuse? Then you'll learn exactly what monsters look like when they stop pretending to be human. Kieran made the only decision he could. You'll stay. On pack territory. Under my protection. Lyra's eyes flashed with surprise before narrowing with suspicion. Protection? That's rich coming from Silvercrest. Not protection from others, Kieran said steadily, ignoring Marcus's sharp intake of breath beside him. Protection from my pack. Because when they find out you're alive, when they learn what was done, he stopped, his wolf pushing against his skin. There will be wolves who want you gone again. Permanently. Let them try, the scarred man growled. Dane, enough. Lyra raised her hand, silencing him without breaking eye contact with Kieran. What's your game, Alpha? Charity? Guilt? Truth, Kieran said simply. If what you're saying is real, if my father committed this crime, then the pack deserves to know. But I need proof. Records, witnesses, something more than accusations in the dark. You want proof? Lyra stepped so close he could feel the heat radiating from her skin, could smell that intoxicating scent that made his wolf howl. Fine. But know this, Alpha Stone. I remember you. His heart stopped. What? I was 6 years old when they took us. You were 14, the Alpha's golden son, already promising to be something great. Her voice dropped to something raw and broken. I had the biggest crush on you. Thought you were a hero. I watched you train in the courtyard every morning, watched you help the younger pups, watched you smile like the sun lived in your chest. The memory surfaced unbidden. A little girl with silver blonde hair, always hovering at the edges of the training grounds, her amber eyes too big for her small face. She'd brought him wildflowers once, a messy bouquet clutched in tiny hands. Lyra, he breathed, the recognition slamming home. Gods, you were. The girl who thought you'd save us. Her smile was devastating. I screamed your name the night they loaded us into those trucks. Screamed it until my throat bled, believing you'd come. Believing the hero I'd worshipped would never let this happen. She leaned in close enough that her breath ghosted across his lips. But you never came, did you, Alpha? Before he could respond, before he could process the agony of her words, a howl erupted from the pack house behind them. Not a warning. A battle cry. Marcus swore viciously. They know. Someone from the border patrol must have reported back. Wolves poured from the pack house, dozens of them, shifting mid-run, their eyes fixed on Lyra and her people with murderous intent. At their head was Elder Thorn, his silver muzzle pulled back in a snarl, his massive wolf form radiating dominance. The elder who'd been his father's closest advisor. The elder who'd helped write those falsified records. Lyra's pack shifted instantly, forming a defensive circle, and Kieran realized with cold certainty that if he didn't stop this now, blood would paint his territory red. "Stand down!" Kieran roared, letting his alpha command ripple through the air. Most of the wolves froze, caught by the order, but Elder Thorn kept coming. And that's when Kieran knew. Thorn had never intended to let the truth surface. Kieran shifted mid-leap, his massive black wolf slamming into Elder Thorn before the older wolf could reach Lyra. They hit the ground in a tangle of fur and fangs, rolling through the dirt as snarls ripped through the night air. Thorn was older, but he was vicious, his teeth snapping inches from Kieran's throat. The message was clear. The elder would kill to keep his secrets buried. Enough. Kieran shifted back, pinning Thorn with one hand around his throat. Shift. Now. That's an alpha command. The compulsion rippled through Thorn's wolf, forcing the shift. The elder appeared beneath him, gray-haired and wild-eyed, his face twisted with desperation. "You don't understand what you're doing," Thorn rasped. "These rogues will destroy everything we've built. They're contaminated, dangerous." "They're pack," Kieran said coldly. "They were always pack. And you threw them away like trash." "We did what was necessary." Thorn's voice rose, frantic now. The gathered wolves were watching, listening, and Kieran could feel the shift in the air. Confusion. Doubt. Horror beginning to dawn on faces as they processed his words. The plague was killing us. We had to protect the bloodline, protect the future. By murdering children? Lyra's voice cut through the clearing like a blade. She stood in human form now, her silver hair wild around her shoulders, her amber eyes burning. "Say it, Elder. Tell them what you did. Tell them how you looked my mother in the eyes and promised her I'd be safe." Thorn's face went pale. "Your mother was already dying. They were all dying." "My mother lived another 3 years, Lyra said softly, and the pain in her voice made Kieran's chest ache. "I know because I came back. I watched from the forest, saw her waste away searching for me. She died believing I'd suffered alone in the Plaguelands. You did that to her. You did that to all of them." A female wolf near the back of the crowd let out a broken sob. "My sister. Maya Ashwood was my sister. You told us she died in quarantine. You let us bury an empty coffin." "There were 12 empty coffins," Dane said, stepping forward with a rolled bundle of papers. He threw them at Thorn's feet. "Death certificates. All forged. All signed by you and the former Alpha. We found them in the old pack archives, the ones you thought burned in that convenient fire 5 years ago." Thorn lunged for the papers, but Marcus was faster, scooping them up and holding them beyond reach. The beta's face was ashen as he scanned the documents. "Gods," Marcus whispered. "It's all here. Transport orders. Quarantine assignments to coordinates that don't exist. Financial records showing payments to rogues for," he looked up at Kieran, sick horror in his eyes. "They paid rogues to make sure none of the children made it back." The clearing erupted in chaos. Wolves shouting, crying, shifting in agitation. Families who'd lost children were pushing forward, desperate to see the proof, to understand the betrayal. And through it all, Lyra stood perfectly still, watching Kieran with those devastating amber eyes. "Still think we're the monsters, Alpha?" she asked quietly. Kieran released Thorn, letting the elder collapse to the ground. "No," he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "I think we are." The pack house felt suffocating. Kieran stood in his father's old office, now his, staring at the portrait on the wall. Alpha Marcus Stone looked back at him with painted eyes, strong and proud, the perfect leader. "A perfect lie. You should take it down." Lyra's voice came from the doorway. She'd cleaned up, changed into borrowed clothes that fit her too well, and God's help him, the mate bond was a living thing between them, pulling him toward her with every breath. "He was still my father," Kieran said quietly. "He was a murderer." Lyra stepped into the room, her movements cautious, like she was entering enemy territory. 25 children died because of him. Because he was too afraid to risk the precious bloodline. "I know." Kieran turned to face her, and the pain in his chest was unbearable. I should have known. I should have questioned, should have looked deeper. I was there, Lyra. I watched families grieve and I never once thought. You were 14, Lyra said, and something in her voice had softened. You weren't alpha yet. You didn't have access to the records. I could have fought for you. The words tore out of him. That night, when you screamed my name. I heard you. Lyra went perfectly still. What? I heard you screaming from my bedroom window. I ran downstairs, tried to get outside, but my father, Kieran's hands clenched into fists. He locked me in. Told me it was pack business, alpha business, that I didn't understand yet. I beat on that door until my knuckles bled, Lyra. I heard you calling for me and I couldn't reach you. A single tear tracked down Lyra's cheek. Why didn't you tell anyone after? Why didn't you investigate? Because he told me you died in the night. Showed me a death certificate the next morning with your name on it. Kieran moved closer, drawn by something more powerful than reason. I mourned you. That little girl with wildflowers and two big eyes. I thought I'd failed to save you from the plague. You failed to save me from your father, Lyra whispered. I know. He stopped inches from her, close enough to see gold flecks in her amber eyes. And I will spend the rest of my life making that right. I swear it on my alpha oath, on my life, on everything I am. Your pack will have justice. We're not a pack, Lyra said, but her voice wavered. We're survivors. Rogues. We don't belong anywhere. You belong here. Kieran's hand lifted, hesitating near her face. You belong with me. You know it. I know you feel it too. The mate bond, Lyra breathed. Of all the cruel jokes. It's not a joke. His thumb brushed her cheek, wiping away that single tear. It's fate telling us something our fathers tried to destroy. You were always meant to be mine, Lyra. Always meant to stand beside me. As what? Your mate? Your Luna? Lyra's laugh was broken. Your pack will never accept me. Then I'll make them. Kieran leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. Or I'll walk away from the alpha position. Choose you over everything. You can't. The door burst open. Marcus stood there, his face grave, holding a phone. Alpha, we have a problem. Elderthorn escaped custody an hour ago. He paused, his jaw tight. And he's contacted the council. They're calling for the execution of all 12 survivors as rogue threats to pack stability. The council's decree arrived at dawn, delivered by 3 stone-faced enforcers in black SUVs. Kieran read it twice, his wolf snarling with rage at every word. Lyra and her 11 survivors were declared rogue threats under ancient pack law. They had 72 hours to leave werewolf territories permanently, or face execution by council decree. Elderthorn's signature sat at the bottom, alongside 4 other regional alphas who'd never even met Lyra's people. They're calling us rabid dogs, Dane said, his scarred face twisted with fury. The 12 survivors stood in Kieran's office, tension crackling through the air like lightning. Saying we're too damaged, too wild to integrate back into pack society. They're afraid, Lyra said quietly. She stood apart from the others, her arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller than Kieran had ever seen her. Afraid of what we represent. If the council acknowledges what happened to us, they have to acknowledge it could happen again. That alphas have that much power, that much capacity for evil. I won't let them take you. Kieran's voice was steel. I've already sent formal challenges to the decree. As your alpha. You're not our alpha, Lyra interrupted, and the words hit him like silver bullets. You can't claim us, Kieran. We were exiled, remember? Legally, we don't exist. We have no pack, no protection, no rights under council law. Marcus stepped forward, his expression grim. She's right. I've been through the legal texts all night. The exile was documented. Once the former alpha severed the pack bonds, your people became ghosts in the system. Then I'll reinitiate them, Kieran said desperately. Bring them back into Silvercrest officially. The council won't recognize it, one of the enforcers said from the doorway. He was older, his eyes tired. Not with the decree already issued. I'm sorry, Alpha Stone. But if these wolves aren't gone in 72 hours, we have orders to eliminate them. And anyone who stands in our way. The threat hung in the air. If Kieran protected them, he'd be declared rogue too. His pack would be sanctioned, possibly dissolved. Everything he'd worked for, destroyed. So that's it? Dane's voice shook with rage. We survived hell, made it back home, and now we just run again? Spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders? Maybe running is smarter than dying, another survivor, a woman named Kira, said softly. We've done it before. We can disappear, start over. No, Lyra's voice cut through the despair. I'm done running. She turned to Kieran, and the look in her eyes shattered him. But I won't let you destroy yourself for us. You have a pack to protect, a responsibility. You are my responsibility, Kieran said roughly. You're my mate, Lyra. Doesn't that mean anything? It means everything. She moved closer, her hand rising to cup his face. Which is why I have to let you go. The bond will fade eventually. You'll find someone else, someone who doesn't come with impossible choices attached. I don't want anyone else. You don't have a choice. Lyra's smile was devastating. We leave tonight. Before the 72 hours are up, before the council can use us as an excuse to hurt your pack. She looked at her people, at the 11 faces that had become her family through blood and survival. Pack your things. We head north to unclaimed territories. Lyra, please, Kieran begged, and he didn't care that his beta, the enforcers, everyone could see him breaking. Don't do this. She kissed him once, soft and gentle, and goodbye. I already have. Kieran watched them disappear into the forest, 12 shadows melting into the darkness. His wolf howled inside him, a sound of pure anguish that he couldn't let escape his throat. Not yet. Marcus stood beside him, silent for a long moment. So that's it? You're just letting her go? What choice do I have? Kieran's voice was hollow. Fight the council and watch my pack get destroyed? Force her to stay and watch her people die? There's always a choice. Marcus handed him a folder. I found this in your father's safe. The one he told you never to open. Kieran's hand shook as he flipped it open. Inside were letters, dozens of them, written in his father's hand. Confessions. Doubts. And at the bottom, a single document that made his blood run cold. A council order from 20 years ago, signed by the same alphas who'd just condemned Lyra. They knew, Kieran breathed. The council knew what my father was planning. They authorized it. It was an experiment, Marcus said bitterly. They wanted to see if exiling the weak would strengthen pack bloodlines. Your father was just the first alpha willing to try it. There are 3 other packs listed there, Kieran. 3 other groups of children who were murdered. The word tasted like ash. The council has been killing children for 20 years, and calling it evolution. Something crystallized in Kieran's chest. Not despair. Rage. Purpose. Call an emergency pack meeting, he said quietly. Everyone. Elders, warriors, families. I don't care if it's the middle of the night. Kieran, what are you? I'm done playing by their rules. He looked at his beta, and something in his eyes made Marcus step back. The council thinks they can dictate who lives and dies in my territory? They think they can use fear and ancient laws to cover up genocide? His wolf surged forward, power radiating from him in waves. They're about to learn what happens when you back an alpha into a corner. 20 minutes later, the entire Silvercrest pack stood assembled in the clearing. Confused faces, worried whispers, but they came. Because he was their alpha, and they trusted him. Kieran stood before them with the folder in his hands. 20 years ago, my father committed an atrocity, he began, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. He took 37 children from their families, told you they died in the plague, and left them in the Deadlands to die. 12 survived. 12 wolves who clawed their way back from hell itself. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He saw recognition on some faces, denial on others. The council knew. They authorized it. And now they've ordered those survivors executed because the truth threatens their power. He held up the documents. I have proof. Confessions. Council orders. Everything we need to expose them. What are you saying, Alpha? An elder asked, her voice trembling. I'm saying we go to war. Kieran's smile was all teeth. Not with claws and fangs. With truth. We expose every council member involved, drag their crimes into the light, and we force them to answer for what they've done. They'll destroy us, someone shouted. Maybe. Kieran's eyes blazed. Or maybe other packs will stand with us. Maybe we start a revolution. He paused. Who's with me? For a moment, silence. Then Marcus stepped forward. I am. One by one, wolves began to move. Standing beside their alpha. Choosing justice over safety. Choosing right over easy. Lyra was 10 miles into unclaimed territory when she felt it. A pulse of energy, raw and powerful, thrumming through the air like thunder. An alpha call. Not a command. An invitation. Do you feel that? Dane stopped, his head tilted toward the south. Toward Silvercrest. It's Kieran, Lyra whispered. The mate bond, which had been a dull ache in her chest, suddenly blazed to life. Something's happening. The howl came next, echoing through the forest. Not one voice. Dozens. Hundreds. The entire Silvercrest pack calling out in unison, and the sound carried a single message. Come home. It's a trap, Kira said, but her voice held doubt. Lyra's wolf pushed forward, desperate, yearning. No. It's not. She turned to her people, her family, and saw the same desperate hope reflected in their eyes. He's fighting for us. They ran. 12 wolves racing through the darkness, following that call like a beacon, and when they burst into Silvercrest territory, the sight that greeted them stole Lyra's breath. The clearing was packed with wolves. Not just from Silvercrest. She saw colors and markings from at least 6 different packs, all standing together, all facing the 3 council enforcers whose vehicles were surrounded. And at the center, Kieran stood in human form, holding a stack of documents. It's over, Thorn, Kieran said, his voice carrying alpha command. The elder was on his knees, silver chains binding his wrists. 7 packs have withdrawn their support from the council pending investigation. 4 more are demanding your immediate removal. He held up the papers. We have confessions from your co-conspirators. Records of 3 other packs where children were exiled. Financial trails showing council funds used to pay rogues for murder. Thorn's face was ashen. You can't prove. We already have. A new voice cut through the clearing. A woman stepped forward, older, her hair silver, her eyes fierce. I'm Alpha Catherine Reeves of the Northern Territory. My pack lost 19 children 20 years ago to what we were told was a plague outbreak. Her voice shook with rage. But there was no plague, was there, Thorn? You told us the same lies. Made us bury empty coffins. More alphas stepped forward. More voices. More families who'd lost children, who'd been lied to, who'd lived with grief while the council covered its sins. The enforcers looked at each other, uncertainty crossing their faces. One of them, the older one, finally stepped forward and removed his weapon belt. I have children, he said quietly. I won't enforce orders built on murdered kids. He looked at Kieran. The council will answer for this. You have my word. Thorn lunged suddenly, breaking free from the chains with desperate strength. He shifted mid-leap, his wolf form massive and wild, aiming straight for Kieran's throat. Lyra moved on instinct. Her wolf exploded forward, silver and deadly, slamming into Thorn midair. They hit the ground hard, and she didn't hesitate. Her fangs found his throat, her strength honed by years of survival, and when Thorn finally went limp beneath her, she felt no satisfaction. Only exhaustion. She shifted back, standing over the elder's body, blood on her hands and tears streaming down her face. It's done, she whispered. It's finally done. Kieran was there instantly, pulling her into his arms, holding her while she shook. You're safe now. All of you. I swear it. Around them, the clearing erupted in hells. Not of violence. Of victory. Of justice finally served. 3 months later, Lyra stood on the balcony of the pack house, watching the sun rise over Silvercrest territory. Her territory now. Home. The word still felt strange on her tongue, fragile like spun glass, but every day it became a little more real. You're up early. Kieran's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. The mate bond hummed between them, warm and right and exactly what she'd stopped believing she could have. Couldn't sleep, Lyra admitted, leaning back into his warmth. Today feels big. It is big. Kieran pressed a kiss to her temple. The council's formal sentencing. Complete dissolution and restructuring under the new coalition. Your testimony helped make that happen. The trial had been brutal. 3 weeks of facing council members, of recounting every horror of those early years in the Deadlands, of watching powerful wolves crumble under the weight of their crimes. But it had been necessary. Healing required truth, no matter how painful. How are the others? Kieran asked softly. Lyra smiled. Dane started training with Marcus yesterday. Apparently, he's a natural at pack security. She paused, her heart swelling. Kira reconnected with her aunt. They spent all day yesterday going through old photo albums, crying and laughing. And the twins, they finally shifted for the first time since we came back. Their wolves are beautiful, Kieran. Strong and whole. Like their alpha, he murmured against her hair. Co-alpha, Lyra corrected. The pack had voted unanimously. Kieran and Lyra would lead together, equal in power and responsibility. A new tradition for a pack learning to embrace change. Below in the courtyard, she could see families gathering. Not just Silvercrest wolves anymore. The survivors had found their people, aunts and uncles and cousins who'd never stopped mourning. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, the pack was knitting itself back together. I have something for you. Kieran pulled back, reaching into his pocket. When he opened his hand, Lyra's breath caught. Wildflowers. Dried and pressed, preserved behind glass in a delicate silver pendant. You kept them, she whispered. From when I was 6. I kept them, Kieran confirmed, fastening the necklace around her throat. A reminder that even when everything seemed lost, even when the world tried to erase you, you survived. You came back. You brought everyone home. Lyra turned in his arms, cupping his face in her hands. We brought everyone home. Together. Together, he agreed, and kissed her like a promise, like a vow, like forever. A howl rose from the courtyard. Then another. And another. The pack singing in joy, in unity, in hope for the future they were building. Survivors and families, old wounds, and new beginnings, all woven together into something stronger than before. Lyra threw back her head and howled with them, her voice joining the chorus. Kieran's deeper howl harmonized with hers, and in that moment, she finally understood. She wasn't forgotten anymore. None of them were. They were pack. They were home. They were loved. And that was everything. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, my beautiful wolves. Lyra and Kieran's story was one of pain and healing, of justice and love, and I hope it touched your hearts the way it touched mine. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Were you Team Kieran from the start, or did Lyra win you over? And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because we have so many more amazing stories coming your way. Until next time, my pack, keep howling at the moon and believing in second chances. I'll see you in the next story.